Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. There's even a brand new Brigadier General tier where you can get a shout out on a Commander's Quarters episode that's dedicated to you. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. Although Teferi is still trying to slow things down, spoiler season is coming to a close. And if you haven't seen my episode on Teferi Who Slows the Sunset, make sure you check that one out. Because Seedborn Muse has nothing on Teferi's Ultimate. Also, from early this morning, we got Florian Voldaren Scion. And this commander's ability really surprised me, and it's actually really cool. And speaking of a surprising card, a card that came completely out of nowhere, the Meat Hook Massacre. Yeah, I was not expecting anything like this in this set, and oh my goodness. There are going to be an absurd amount of decks that want this card. So yeah, if you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out. But this episode is on a completely different card, and this card is on a completely different level than a lot of the other creatures in this set. I mean, I'm talking about mythic proportions, even though this card somehow is not a mythic. So what exactly is this card and what does it do? Well, let's jump into it to find out. So, Tovolar's Huntmaster is a 6/6 human werewolf that costs 4 green. It has, when it enters the battlefield, create 2/2/2 green wolf creature tokens. And on top of that, it also has Daybound. Then when it transforms, it turns into Tovolar's Packleader. It has, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2/2/2 green wolf tokens. And by paying 2 green, another target wolf or werewolf you control fights target creature you don't control. Oh, and it's a 7/7 as well. Yeah, I would have to say that's a powerful card, reminiscent of another extremely powerful card that we'll get to here in a bit. First off, even just that front side coming into play as a 6/6 and giving us 2/2/2s, that's 10 power in total across 3 bodies for 6 mana. And then obviously when it's on the night side, it's even more impactful. A 7/7 that gives us 2/2/2 wolves again every single time we attack. And of course, it doesn't even stop there. We can pay 2 green and have another wolf or werewolf we control fight a creature we don't control. So this is a big body that generates a ton of tokens, not only on ETB, but also on attack, and on top of that, we can utilize it for removal. And again, somehow this is not a mythic. Again, most likely because you can only give so many mythics to all the colors, and green already had enough mythics, but green gets all the good things anyways, so let's just get overpowered rares now. So this thing can be a heavy hitter, it can flood the board, and it can remove your opponent's creatures very easily. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this card is most definitely reminiscent to a powerful, older card in Commander. And if you're like me, you might have already guessed exactly what that card is the second that you saw this card. And that, of course, would be Grave Titan. Grave Titan is a 6/6 giant with Death Touch that costs 4 black. It has, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, put 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield. So, yeah, a lot of similarities here. I mean, Tovolar's Huntmaster is basically a green Grave Titan with some minor differences. I mean, when it comes to similarities, both are 6/6s for 6 mana that give you 2/2/2s when they come into play. Now, obviously, Grave Titan has Death Touch, which can most definitely help you out in combat with it. And again, you're going to want to swing with this. And with that, Grave Titan automatically has that attack trigger on it where you get 2 more 2/2s. Whereas with Tovolar's Huntmaster, you don't get that on the front side, but you do get that on the back. So obviously the Tovolar's Packleader side is going to be more impactful, giving you more tokens and being a bigger threat, and again allowing you to fight with your wolves and werewolves, which again Grave Titan obviously cannot do. In comparing the cards overall, yeah, Grave Titan is going to be more consistent, but Tovolar's Packleader is going to be better when it's actually on that side. Personally, I would rather have a 7/7 that can utilize other creatures as removal than just having Death Touch. Not saying that Death Touch is bad, it's not, but you know, fighting, great. Regardless, I think Tovolar's Huntmaster has a ton of potential. I mean, Grave Titan itself sees play in over 5% of eligible decks, and it's a $10 card. And that thing has been reprinted a couple of times now. So I'm not sure exactly what the price is going to end up on Tovolar's Huntmaster, only time will tell. But yeah, when it comes to green token production, obviously some staples that are already out there are things like Avenger of Zendikar, Rampaging Balos, and Tendershoot Dryad. Each of these are token creating staples for a reason and go about making tokens in different ways. Avenger of Zendikar has an ETB where it makes you a 0/1 plant for every single land that you control. And then of course it has a landfall trigger. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get a +1 counter on every single plant you control. So it can make you a giant army right away, and then it can grow that army with the more lands that come into play. And speaking of an army and lands, Rampaging Balos has whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Now a creature that makes you tokens outside of lands is Tendershoot Dryad. And this one can make you an absurd amount of tokens. It has Ascend, and at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token, and saplings you control get +2/+2 as long as you've got the City's Blessing. So yeah, you get a token on every single player's turn, and they're going to be 3/3s in no time. Now, Tovolar's Huntmaster is obviously a fantastic token producer in its own right, and it's a big threat in itself too. And again, obviously, unlike any of these creatures, there is no kind of fight mechanic or any way to get rid of other creatures on these. So it does have more versatility than these as well. Now, I'm not saying it's better, but in some decks it very well might be. And here in a bit, we'll talk about exactly what decks might want to be including this card. But first, let's talk about some ways to make Tovolar's Huntmaster / Tovolar's Packleader even more impactful. And one of those ways, obviously, is when it is Tovolar's Packleader to double up on that attack trigger. And to do that, we can utilize cards like Relentless Assault and Morag Fury of Akum that give us additional combats. Relentless Assault says, untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, additional combat phase, followed by additional main phase. Basically, hey, you get an extra combat. Have fun. So when it is the Packleader side and we get to swing twice, first off, swing twice with a 7/7 is very nice, but yeah, we get 4 tokens instead of just 2. That's 8 additional power across 2 bodies from just 1 turn of attacking. And we can get even more combats with Morag Fury of Akum. It has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's no combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So obviously just with our land drop in our post-combat main phase, congratulations, we get another attack. And if the deck that we've got Morag in has green as well, obviously there are plenty of ways to ramp and get even more lands out for even more combats. And again, for every single land and every single additional combat, that's going to be 2 extra wolves and 4 extra power. So yeah, we can flood the board pretty quickly if we get extra combats, and we've got the backside of this card up. Now, obviously, a different direction that we can go and a different way to get more wolf tokens in play is to abuse the ETB with cards like Ephemerate and Conjurer's Closet. Ephemerate's going to blink a creature and return it back to the battlefield under its owner's control. On top of that, it's got Rebound, so basically we get to cast it again during our next upkeep for free. So for just 1 mana, we get 4 wolves, essentially. That being said, obviously, there is somewhat of a downside to blinking Tovolar's Packleader, because when it comes back into play, it's going to be coming back as Tovolar's Huntmaster. Now that's not all that bad of a thing, because again, we still get that ETB and get 2 more wolves. The downside, though, is that when we blink it, it always is going to come back on the front side, which again is the weaker side that doesn't have the attack trigger or the way to make creatures fight. But sometimes we're going to be blinking this as it already is on the front side too, so in that case, it really doesn't matter. Or maybe you've got a way to transform it back, that's great too. Regardless, a repeatable effect like Conjurer's Closet obviously can help out as well. It says at the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So essentially at the end of every single one of our turns, we can just get 2 extra free wolf tokens. But now that we've talked about some comparable cards, as well as cards that work really well with Tovolar's Huntmaster / Packleader, what kinds of commanders might want this card in their 99? And the first one that I'm going to bring up is obviously Tovolar Dire Overlord. Tovolar is our brand new werewolf commander, and it is quite awesome. And if you haven't seen my quick take on Tovolar, make sure you go check that out. Regardless, it's a 3/3 human werewolf that says, whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals common damage to a player, draw a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and/or werewolves, it becomes night, then transform any number of human werewolves you control. So again, whenever Tovolar's Huntmaster or any of the wolves that it creates get through in combat, well, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. But perhaps even more importantly for Tovolar's Huntmaster, we auto-flip it. As long as at the beginning of our upkeep we have at least one other wolf or werewolf in play, we get to flip Tovolar's Huntmaster into Tovolar's Packleader, which again is the side we want. Especially since we get to do that during our upkeep, so then by the time we get to combat, we can swing with the backside, which makes us even more wolves, which then is going to lead to even more card draw. And yeah, Tovolar is going to love this card in the deck. And actually, I even forgot to talk about the fight mechanic, which is obviously going to be very impactful in this deck too. You're going to have a ton of great options of some huge wolves and werewolves to fight and take out a lot of creatures. Regardless, outside of werewolf and wolf tribal, let's talk about a token-based commander like Adrix and Nev Twincasters. Adrix and Nev have, if one or more tokens to be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. So now, on ETB and on attack, we are getting 4 2/2 tokens. That is 8 power every single time it comes into play or attacks, and yeah, that is pretty huge. Another commander that also might want Tovolar's Huntmaster, though, is Chatterfang Squirrel General. Chatterfang has, if one or more tokens to be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. So again, we're not doubling up on the exact same token, but we are getting a squirrel token for every single wolf token that we're going to be making. And then Chatterfang allows us to sacrifice those squirrels and give target creature +X/-X until end of turn. So yeah, we can wipe out some creatures or pump a creature with this. Or we can just make an absurd amount of tokens with Reese the Redeemed. Now, Reese can make tokens on his own, but he also has pay 4, Selesnya, tap for each creature token you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So for however many wolves that we have, we're gonna double that up. Next up, how about Wolfgar of Icewind Dale? He has, if a creature you control attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers the initial time. So as long as we're flipped over to the night side with Tovolar's Packleader, well, we're gonna get that trigger twice and we're gonna get 4 wolves. And next up, another commander that might want to consider this is a Blink commander like Rune of the Hidden Realm. Rune has pay 2 and tap, exile another target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Outside of Rune's ability, there are going to be plenty of ways to blink creatures in this kind of a deck, so yeah, blink away and get a ton of wolf tokens. And finally, even a fight commander like Nath of the Dire Hunt might want to consider this card as well. She has, whenever one or more creatures you control fight or become blocked, draw a card. So yeah, a creature that wants to be aggressive and attack and make a bunch of tokens, that's great for it, and obviously being able to fight as well is great for this as well. But now this episode is coming to a close, so it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on this card. In all honesty, I am not sure how this is not a mythic rare. I mean, the only reason I guess I could see is that, well, a lot of the value is on the backside of this card, and again, you're not guaranteed to be on that during your turn. You know, unless you are playing a Tovolar deck, then you pretty much are. Regardless, again, that backside of the card is basically a Grave Titan with the ability to have things fight. So yeah, I can see this making a big splash in a lot of decks out there. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.